8 years is a massive amount of time in the gaming world. Back in 2018, when developers dropped a game where you only unlocked jackets and ship cosmetics, everyone thought it would die within a month. Critics called it an empty sandbox with nothing to do. Yet here we are in 2026, and Sea of Thieves is still actively sailing in its 19th season. It survived next-gen console launches, jumped to PlayStation, and outlived dozens of hyped live service titles. While modern games are stuffed with battle passes, this classic forces everyone onto a level playing field, where veterans have the same health and damage as absolute beginners. But with a community currently going through a serious love-hate phase, the big question remains whether this title is still worth your time today, or if the magical formula has finally run completely dry. To understand why this game stuck around, look at the core gameplay loop, built entirely around emergent player interaction. Unlike modern games that guide you with bright map markers and trackers, this game forces you to act like a real sailor. You must walk to a map table, read compass angles, and check the wind. You do not just press a button to sail, you manually drop sails, angle them to catch the breeze, and turn a heavy wheel against rolling waves. Crew communication is everything. One person steers, another watches from the crow's nest, and someone else tracks the map downstairs. This cooperative coordination creates a unique experience that stays with you long after turning off the console, especially when you realize how much the actual handling mechanics play into your survival. Ship handling controls are a masterclass in physical mechanics. Whether managing a sloop alone or working with friends on a galleon, the weight feels real and tactile. Turning the wheel requires effort, and dropping your anchor at full speed performs a violent anchor turn that can either save your life or leave you completely exposed. The interface is clean, with basically no HUD cluttering your view. Health bars only pop up during damage, and inventory must be counted manually. This creates an immersive feel where you manipulate the world with your hands. Even basic survival tasks like patching holes with planks or bucketing out water require a proper physical rhythm. If your timing is off by a second, your ship sinks, sending everything straight to the bottom of the sea, which makes the choice of your weapons and how you fight back the only thing standing between glory and absolute rage. The combat system has always been a point of massive debate. Naval combat is arguably the greatest ever designed in video game history. Aiming cannons while bouncing on rough waves requires serious practice to calculate distance, arc, and ammunition types. Conversely, hand-to-hand combat on foot has always felt a little clunky and floaty. For years, it was just a basic combination of swords and guns. But looking at the game from our 2026 perspective, recent seasons injected a ton of variety. We now have throwing knives, double-barrel pistols, grapple guns, and blowpipes. These tools spiced up movement, allowing players to walk across harpoon lines or zip across islands during a fight. Even with these additions, sword fights can still devolve into a frustrating mess of hit registration issues, which becomes annoying when fighting sweaty players who master exploits to steal your hard-earned gold. Which brings up a fascinating point about what that gold actually buys you in this world. This brings us directly to the unique progression systems, which completely reject traditional design. There are no levels that increase your power, no rare weapons with extra damage, and no armor that shields you from fire. Every item you buy with gold is purely cosmetic. You spend millions solely to look cool, buy a pet monkey, or change your ship sails. For gamers addicted to increasing stat numbers, this can feel empty. Recent updates increased faction caps to level 500, introducing a prestige system called Distinctions. It gives veterans a reason to grind, but a level 500 captain has the exact same health as a beginner. This choice is a double-edged sword. It is wonderful because you can take a long break without falling behind the meta, but it also means that after 100 hours, you might start asking why you're risking your life for another shiny jacket, unless you are playing purely to experience the hidden secrets written into the world itself. If you want deep storytelling, you will not find it inside the main sandbox mode. The lore is scattered across old books and cryptic dialogue from characters at outposts. However, the game features dedicated story campaigns known as Tall Tales. The developers added brilliant cinematic adventures, including official crossovers with the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise and the Monkey Island series. These quests introduce clever puzzles, voice-acted cutscenes, and unique locations that take you into supernatural realms, providing a solid 30 hours of structured narrative.
But the real story is never the one written by the studio designers. The real narrative is always the emergent, unpredictable madness that happens between real human players. It is the story of how you gathered treasure, got ambushed by a player hiding in your crow's nest, talked your way out using voice chat, and ended up drinking virtual grog together at a tavern while playing a sea shanty, surrounded by a world that looks completely unlike any other modern game on the market.
The world design and pure exploration are where this classic title achieves legendary status, even by 2026 graphic standards. The developers brilliantly chose a stylized, timeless cartoon look rather than chasing ultra-realistic graphics. Because of this, the visuals have aged like fine wine and look phenomenal today. The water technology remains some of the most beautiful work ever put into a video game. The ocean shifts naturally from calm, crystal-clear turquoise and shallow shores to dark, terrifying navy blue during storms. Watching a sunrise from your deck while the waves gently rock your boat is a therapeutic experience. The map is divided into distinct regions, from lush tropical islands to the volcanic islands of the Devil's Roar, where volcanoes erupt and boil the water around your hull. Exploration feels genuinely dangerous because the open world is alive with threats like skeleton ships, phantom fleets, and massive megalodon sharks that can attack without warning, turning a simple sailing trip into a frantic hunt for survival, or an unplanned side quest.
There is a mountain of side quests available every time you set sail. You can take on voyages for several trading companies, hunting undead bounty targets, managing cargo deliveries, or digging up buried chests. The game features server-wide world events marked by glowing clouds, like a red skull indicating Captain Flameheart's ghost fleet, or a skeleton cloud showing an active fort filled with enemies. Recent seasons introduced major mechanics, like the ability to commandeer a colossal, fiery ship called the Burning Blade, turning your crew into a literal boss fight that the entire server must team up against to defeat. While all this content sounds amazing, the community in 2026 expresses a lot of fatigue regarding this loop. Many newer seasonal events feel like slight retextures of old mechanics, and the constant cycle of digging up chests for cosmetics feels repetitive for the older player base, who have seen it all, though the real battle isn't just against the game loop, but how the servers handle the chaos. Technical performance has seen a massive rocky evolution, but it still carries some noticeable old baggage. At launch, the servers were simple, but as the team piled on new features and complex physics, the infrastructure took a hit. Today, playing on modern hardware ensures smooth frame rates, and loading times are drastically reduced. The introduction of a dedicated player-versus-player matchmaking system called the Hourglass allowed competitive crews to dive beneath waves and instantly surface next to a rival ship. In our current 19th season, they added shrinking battle boundaries to speed up these matches and prevent drawn-out chases. However, server stability remains a persistent issue. You will still experience annoying rubber banding on your ship, weird hit registration where bullets pass through an enemy without doing damage, and sudden lag spikes when multiple ships gather. It is clear that the underlying engine is being pushed to its absolute limits to support everything happening in this massive shared world, creating a volatile environment depending on which version of the seas you decide to enter.
The replay value of this pirate sandbox is infinite because no two sessions are identical, but enjoyment depends heavily on your approach. A few years ago, the developers introduced Safer Seas, providing a private server where you can play alone or with friends without running into hostile players. This mode is fantastic for beginners who want to learn mechanics, explore islands, or enjoy tall tales without getting constantly sunk by veterans. But to keep things fair, Safer Seas caps your progression levels and gold earnings significantly. The true unfiltered essence of the game lives exclusively in high seas mode, where player versus player encounters are always active, creating a constant atmosphere of extreme tension. You could have a peaceful evening doing merchant runs, or suddenly find yourself dragged into a brutal multi-ship battle that lasts for over an hour over a single piece of loot. The community sentiment in 2026 is deeply divided, with veterans complaining that recent seasons lack true innovation, but the emotional roller coaster this game delivers is something no patch note can ever fully fix.
When you look at the core strengths and weaknesses, its greatest strength remains its unmatched ability to create genuine, unscripted human emotion. The highs are incredibly high. The feeling of defending a massive stock of loot against a toxic crew and sailing into the sunset with friends while playing sea shanties is a pure gaming joy that few modern titles can match. The music and sound design are flawless, with tracks dynamically changing based on whether you are winning or sinking. But on the flip side, the weaknesses are brutal. This game respects your real-world time absolutely zero. You can spend 3 hours collecting treasure, and if a skilled crew sinks you right outside the outpost, you walk away with 0 gold and 0 progress. The emotional impact of losing hours of work to a single sneaky play can be soul-crushing, which is exactly why many casual players walk away and never install the game again.
In the grand scheme of things, this pirate adventure occupies a special place in gaming history. It stands as a reminder that multiplayer games do not always need complex skill trees or tiered weapon drops to keep a community engaged for nearly a decade. It relies entirely on the joy of pure exploration, true teamwork, and the unpredictable nature of human interaction in an open sandbox. While modern games in 2026 feel like a stressful second job filled with mandatory daily challenges and strict metas, this game still feels like an old-school playground where you can goof around with friends, shoot yourself out of a cannon, and roleplay as a ridiculous pirate. It survived 8 years because there is simply nothing else like it on the market. It is a beautifully flawed masterpiece that requires a specific mindset to appreciate. If you expect a traditional role-playing game with linear progression, you will be disappointed. But if you look at it as an unpredictable generator of unforgettable gaming memories, it shines brighter than almost anything else. Taking everything into consideration, from the spectacular naval combat and timeless art style to the clunky swordplay and punishing loop, I give this classic game a solid 4 out of 5. It loses a full point because server stability and hit registrations still act up far too often after all these years, and the loop can become repetitive without a dedicated crew. But it earns that high rating because it remains one of the most unique, uncompromised artistic visions in gaming history that refuse to change its identity to chase passing trends. If you have not played it in years, or if you have never stepped foot on these waters, it is absolutely worth downloading in 2026 just to experience a world where player freedom is the ultimate rule. If this deep dive brought back old memories or helped you decide to lift your anchor once again, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more honest reviews. Share this with your old crew to see if they are ready to sail again, and drop a comment down below telling me your absolute craziest pirate story. Until next time, keep gaming, stay safe, and I will see you all out on the open seas.